It must assess the need for additional resources and the utility's plan for acquiring those resources. Must propose the utility's intended process to solicit bids for energy and capacity resources. And the plan must describe at least 2 alternate scenarios to represent the costs and benefits of increasing renewable energy resources and demand-side management programs. The utility must fully explain, justify, and document the data and assumptions it used to develop its plan. If the utility's plan meets the minimum filing requirements established by law, Montana law does not give the commission the authority to formally reject the utility's plan. Instead, the law requires that the commission review the plan, publish a copy of the plan. There's some copies up front if you'd like to view it. And the commission must allow for public comment on the plan and provide at least 2 public meetings for the purpose of receiving comments. The commission may comment on the utilities plan and identify deficiencies. Comments from the commission may not be construed as approval of any proposed resource. So to reiterate, the commission is not required to approve or disapprove a utilities plan. The law simply requires the filing of a plan. While the commission may make comments and identify deficiencies, the commission does not approve or disapprove integrated resource plan. Turning now to the present docket. In September of 2024, MDU filed its integrated resource plan with the commission. The 2024 plan evaluates different potential generation resources that could meet MDU's electric service needs over the next 5 years. According to the 2024 plan, to meet its capacity needs for the 2024 to 2029 period, MDU planned, among other things, to complete the startup of the new 88 megawatt Heskett 4 simple cycle combustion turbine at the Heskett station in North Dakota in 2024. MDU planned to issue a new request for proposal for supply and demand side resources. They proposed to monitor applicable environmental regulations, increase energy purchases from the Mid-Continent Independent System Operator as necessary, and continue its evaluation of a new 150 megawatt wind opportunity. The commission issued a notice of opportunity for public comment in this matter in January 2025 and a notice of listening sessions in early February 2025. The law requires the commission to schedule 2 public meetings on MDU's plan, and both meetings have been scheduled for today. We held a listening session in Miles City earlier today around the lunch hour. The commission here today invites public comment to provide the written on MDU's 2024 integrated resource plan. The deadline for public comments on the plan will be March 14th, 2025. You can also comment online. Instructions for submitting written comments on the plan can also be found on the commission's January 8th, 2025 notice and opportunity for public comment and on the brochures that are over by the sign-in sheets over there. If you haven't yet signed in, please do so. Mr. Chair, this concludes my summary.
We are here today to listen to public comments. As a result, this meeting will not have a question and answer format. The commission and its staff will not be commenting today or answering questions. If certain technical questions arise, I may defer to commission's legal counsel. Please be mindful of your use of time so that others have adequate time to comment. Comments should be delivered professionally and respectfully. Commenters should please confine their remarks to a specific topic of the listening session, which relates to MDU's 2024 Integrated Resource Plan. Please note that this session is being recorded and all comments received will be public records. So please do not include confidential or private information in your comments. The commission now invites members of the public to comment. Please remember to speak into the microphone, state and spell your name, the state where you are from. We do not need your physical address, just the town where you live. Also, if you are speaking on behalf of an organization, please identify the organization. We'll begin with commenters in the room. I'd like you to step to the podium. This is the microphone and it has good reception at this distance. Who would like to go first for public comment? Okay.
Is this being televised?
Yes,
It is.
Where do we look, or where's the camera?
right there.
It'll be available on YouTube. Yep.
Covering about 2 feet to the right of the podium and a little bit. in front
So where
there.
do I need to be?
I think you can put that right in front of the podium. Will it catch the, that's on the floor?
Yep,
Okay. Okay.
First, let me introduce myself, Mr. Chairman. My name is Rick Holden. I'm a farmer and rancher from Dawson County. I've been a ratepayer for MDU for 40+ years. So I operate a farm and ranch, rely on MDU power for that. We rely on the MDU power to run our pivots. We lamb and calve in the wintertime when it's below zero. We need MDU power to run our heat lights. We also live on the Buffalo Rapids Irrigation Project. And while our pumps are serviced by Western Area Power, all of our other needs on the project are met, our electrical needs are met by MDU to run our heaters, to run our lights, run the electricity in our buildings, all of that sort of stuff. So my operation has a deep interest in how MDU functions and how they proceed into the future. It's important to us. My address is 101 Road 253, Glendive. There's two parts to my presentation tonight to the committee. One, I want to mention coal, and two, wind. And they both have to do with where we are today. MDU Board of Directors a few years ago took it upon themselves to decommission and tear down the coal-fired electrical generation plant in Sydney. This was a great operation. We were mining coal in Savage, driving it roughly 20 miles down the road to a coal-fired electrical generation plant, generating electricity and sending it out to all the customers. And it also serviced the oil fields, which are very valuable to the United States. The Obama administration offered incentives to the company, of which the board decided to accept, and they tore down our coal-fired generation plant. I would also note that the United States Energy Information Administration tells us that we have recoverable coal reserves in the United States that are estimated to last about 422 years. Montana has 30% of the recoverable coal in the United States. So we have a very good resource that's going to waste at this point. And MDU is part of that problem because of what we had here and what we could have used into the future for my family and for everybody else that's served by MDU. The coal generation plant in Sydney should not have been shut down. We shouldn't have lost the jobs in the coal fields and the electrical generating jobs that it created in Sydney. The board should have been looking for ways to upgrade the plant. They typically say that the plant was old and decrepit and non-usable. But in fact, when you talk to other mining engineers and electrical engineers, the plant could have been reconditioned and could have been used into the future. It was just an economical decision that the board made to take government incentives to shut down a plant and to go a different direction. Now they're here today asking you and telling us that we have a shortage of electricity and that we need to look at some other source to provide it. We actually need, as everybody knows, more electricity, not less. And to tear down an operating plant is just unbelievable to me to think that we went that route. If you look at the coal-generated electrical facility in Hardin, they actually take all of that electricity to the most part and use it for data processing centers right there on site. MDU could have done the same thing. If they didn't want to sell it to the public or put it out on the open market, they could have built processing centers right on the plant's grounds, and they could have made a lot of money. And it could have helped the ratepayers as well. I'm going to shift from the coal to the wind, because if you look at the their what is this called? Opportunity for public comment on their integrated resource plan. They talk about the need to possibly look at supply and demand side resources as it pertains to wind opportunities. What I have here is a graph, or it's a graphic of what wind opportunities look like in eastern Montana. And you can see that if MDU were to pursue installing wind turbines in Big Sky Country, that Big Sky Country would no longer exist. These wind turbines that they're planning to put in NextEra, I should say, not specifically MDU, but NextEra plans to put 40 of these already here in Dawson County under a 5 county-wide industrial complex. We also learned that these wind turbines now are obsolete as of the Senate Energy Committee 3 weeks ago. And the lobby came in and testified that these towers that you see pictured in the graphic are no longer big enough. They need to be bigger, in their opinion, in order to generate more electricity per site, which would, under their scenario, make them the size of the Eiffel Tower. I have to tell MDU, when they read these comments, that I do not want one dime of my rates going towards the development of wind in eastern Montana. You have to look at the liability that these turbines are going to bring. First of all, they only are effective for about 20 to 25 years before they have to be replaced. They cost a lot of money, a lot of ratepayer money to build these things. Then you have to tear them down and you have to put them somewhere. So you have decommissioning costs. You have to dig a hole and find some place to put the blades and cut up the towers. You have the liability of what those towers are going to do to the land all around them, all around eastern Montana where we live. The fiberglass blades on these wind towers are made of chemicals that the EPA has labeled as dangerous. And they're also called forever chemicals. Forever chemicals. That means you can never get rid of the chemicals that these fiberglass blades are made of. That's already in law. They're considered forever chemicals. So once you bury them, they leach into the ground, they destroy the groundwater, and they become a waste site. So essentially, every place you have a wind tower, and you take these blades and you start digging holes all around eastern Montana to bury them as they decompose, you're creating waste sites all over our land. These fiberglass blades deteriorate starting in about year 5. And unfortunately, we just found out last week that they decompose faster than that. In the wind complex north of Miles City, after just 2 years, they've already started to tear the blades off some of those wind turbines, and they're burying them north of Miles City on places where they were standing. And they're telling the farmers and ranchers there that signed contracts that they need to be buried on their property because that is part of the cooperation clause. I'd also mention that these wind turbines here pictured were originally the projected size for eastern Montana and Dawson County. But not only are they going to be larger going into the future, But you can tell that with a structure this size of the Seattle Space Needle, it's going to devalue everybody's property all around them, whether or not they have one of these on their place or not. So that potentially puts MDU ratepayers in jeopardy for not only liability claims for loss of value, but it also puts us on the hook for any decommissioning costs, any waste disposal sites that the EPA targets later. It's almost unbelievable the amount of liability that comes with accepting a short-term solution to a long-term problem by using wind turbines. We do not have firefighting equipment anywhere out here that can handle this sort of a situation. We have no ladder trucks that can reach the height of the Seattle Space Needle where the turbines are located. So, Mr. Chairman, that would conclude my comments for tonight. And I will leave with you those comments as well as a graphic.
Thank you.
Showing the height of what's projected at this point. And just to reiterate, I do not want MDU to spend one dime of my ratepayer money on the construction of wind turbines. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I go on to the next public commenter, I wanted to ask Philip English, do we have other public service commissioners online, Philip?
Commissioner Bukacek is online.
Commissioner Bukacek, thank you for being online, and I wanted to recognize that you are present.
Thank you, sir.
Do we have any more public commenters in the room?
Thank you. Rena Kurtz, Prairie County, Prairie, Montana. And thank you, Mr. Chairman, for having me here again. I'm going to bring out this the highlights of the FARM bill that is being worked on from representatives in different states. The House Republicans are seeking to prevent the use of taxpayer dollars to incentivize what they describe as green energy boondoggles on agricultural land, citing subsidies that could cost taxpayers hundreds of billions of dollars over the next decade. I'm not going to read all of this, but I'm going to hit the highlights of it. To end federal funding for renewable subsidies for wind, solar development on agricultural land. The bill titled Future Agricultural Retention and Management Farm Act would not prevent the developers from building wind turbines or solar panels, but rather end the use of federal funds to encourage such projects. I ask, side note, is this going to be so attractive to MDU when the greenies on your board, and I've talked to some stockholders, are without the government cash incentives for this energy? Will it look so grand as they move forward to invest and destroy our agricultural land? If it was a good business, they wouldn't need these incentives or the tax abatements, which are the people's money. They're throwing pennies at them. And it's their money on the front end, and our prices will increase with this. We had talked about, I will finish this part. Taxpayer dollars shouldn't be used to sacrifice farmland for green energy boondoggles. The Farm Act ends corporate welfare for unreliable energy sources and ensures agricultural land is protected for future generations. MDU is working with an administration that is not favorable to this type of welfare and the enslavement of your consumers. We're enslaved. We have no choice but to go through you. Renewable subsidies for clean energy projects such as wind and solar could cost taxpayers $424.6 billion over the next decade, according to the analysis by the Treasury Department for 2024-2023, cited by the Republican congressman. This congressman said he introduced the Farm Act after hearing concerns from constituents who fear far too much farmland is being taken away amid the push for more greener if the bill is passed. And who decides what is greener? Because hydro looks pretty green. This does not look green, what is scattering across our land. As I've mentioned before, it doesn't move and it doesn't grow. It costs us a lot of money. The Public Service Commission is supposed to protect the enslaved consumers from these monopolies. There is no risk when you do not have to search for customers. I'm in a customer service business. I have to keep my customers happy. I have to give specials. I have to make sure my product is good and cheap and good. You're not in the same boat. So hearing that you're needing money and that there are record profits being made from the stockholders, that comes from a stockholder's mouth. They're making a lot of money and our rates keep going up. The bill comes after the Biden administration pushed use of federal funds to incentivize green energy projects, such as the USDA's Rural Energy of America program, which provided grant funding to agriculture producers for small and large wind and solar generations. When you have a business that's a good business, you don't have to incentivize it. It'll stand on its own 2 feet. Wind does not stand on its own 2 feet. My personal opinion, we are going to find that this is as big a fraud as the Ukraine. When it's too late, you can pull out of the Ukraine. It's not so easy to pull these things out of our soil. You have 500 to 800 yards of cement. It costs $6.5 million to build a turbine. That's a mid-sized one. They don't plan on doing mid-sized one. They are getting bigger and bigger. And thank you, Mr. Holden. Yes, the blades last about 5 years, not 20, if that. So they can't replace one. They have to replace all 3. What are they going to do with them? Oh, since Wyoming isn't taken anymore, we can't find a dump that'll take them. They've tried chopping them up. It's not economical. This stuff not only sheds, you have the fiberglass, you have the PFAs, it affects groundwater, it affects livestock, It affects the ground, it affects people, the list goes on and on. It is detrimental to our health, to our well-being, and to our economy, to the substance of who we are in this country, and certainly in Eastern Montana. I ask, what energy is the cheapest? We have several different energies. We are enriched with coal that will last for endless years just from coal strip. Not to mention what we have out here that they've considered. The coal plant that Mr. Holden was talking about was one of the most effective coal plants. It had been in business or up and running for, I'm not sure, 80 years. They had, in 60 years, they had shut down 8 times. You're not going to find that with a turbine. The money is being made by whoever, MDU, is being made by the incentives. That's where the money is coming from. It is not coming from the production. I was informed this morning, 70% is coming from coal. Why is it only 70% when we have so much and we have such good quality coal? Why is it only 70%? It certainly doesn't have the footprint or destroy the land like these other products are doing. Hydro, they decided it wasn't green. Who came up with that? You mentioned we don't have a lot of hydro around here. We do have a lot of coal. Let's use what we have. How many hydro turbines does Montana have? What energy is the most expensive? It can take $200 turbines at $6.5 million for a mid-sized one. You do the math. To do what nuclear can do. When you build nuclear, yes, it's the first one is extremely important, is expensive. They cut in half the price with the second one. And it's a cookie cutter. If they do a cookie cutter, as they are doing in Idaho, and they are doing it in Idaho, it gets cheaper every single time. The fact that the ripple effect of Sydney's coal plant being taken out is, there aren't words for how preposterous that was. That had such a negative ripple effect on Eastern Montana. Most of the commissioners do not live in Eastern Montana, and I would venture to say there's a few that haven't even gone past Billings. It's a different world over here. I suggest you visit if you have not. We live here because we're people of a handshake, we're hardworking, and we don't stab each other in the back. We'll tell you to your face, and we'll apologize if we're to be corrected. But we certainly wouldn't encourage price hikes on enslaved customers when we've never even been over here. Commissioners, thank you for being here. That ripple effect that had, there were so many people put out a job, and it had a ripple effect on the sugar beet industry, on the farmers. I drove by there. Shame on you. Shame on you. Shame on you. The new turbines that can be put in coal will produce at least 50% more energy with these new turbines that can be put in these in one and two. It's all set up. MDU, I will reiterate, MDU is called to bring a reasonable profit to their stockholders and the cheapest price to the consumer. It is constitutional, Montana Constitution, that you have to leave our land in good shape. And I don't have the exact verbiage. I didn't have time to pull that together. I think we all need to learn our Constitution because I think it's being heavily violated. But I would be more than happy to get that sent over to the commission to remind them of their oath, which is to uphold the Montana Constitution. Maybe it could be read to the board members of MDU. Also, it would be interesting to see the books. And so I will be asking that. And I imagine that the commission sees the books. And because there is more than one company, and it would be advantageous for the consumers to be able to examine those, the ledger. So we can see expenses, so we can see that many people have more than one company, as does MDU. So it would be advantageous for us to take a look and have an outside source be able to examine those books. Reiterating Mr. Holden's comments, are the private landowner owners required to bury these on their land? Now they are. So that it can contaminate the land and the soil that they've been left with? Is that the master plan, and who pays for that? We wait for them to get hit by lightning? And what if the shedding moves into other counties? Are you prepared, MDU, to be sued? How about Canada? How about it goes into Canada? They're probably as green as your board members. Who is responsible for the endless acres and sections of turbines that come to end of life? Who is? Who's going to be stuck with them? Who's going to haul them out? Who's going to take them down? Who's going to bury them, and where are they going to bury them? There's a lot of them. And it's more and more. They're working rapidly to stick these up everywhere they can, because where's the money? The money's in making them, not in what comes out of them. I would encourage MDU to take a look at some of the resources that we naturally have here that don't create the footprint. Nuclear, you can bury it underground. It's not the nuclear of yesteryear. Yes, it's expensive, but not when you keep making the same ones. Go check out what Idaho's doing and Wyoming. I would ask, Mr. Holden, you've answered many of these questions. How many turbines? I would like to know how many turbines are hit a year in the United States. We don't have a way to take care of the fires. It gets very dry here. Come and visit Eastern Montana. It gets very dry here. It's very dry in Western Montana. We have no way to take care of the fires. There is no one that's going to fly over and put retardant on these blades. It's not going to happen. We don't have the means. So are we going to pay for that too? Should we add that to the cheap energy? How many are hit every year in the United States? How many birds are being annihilated by wind turbines? We had birds land in Berkeley Pit and the whole world went crazy. Are we counting the birds that are being annihilated? I would guess it's in the hundreds on a regular basis. We have a gentleman who has moved in our area. He's a falconer. He's retired, and he's brought other falconers to Eastern Montana, and he will leave. We have our industries are hunters, bird hunters. These birds, it takes a little bit and a lot of deaths, but they do change their flight patterns. So we will lose that. Is the commission completely satisfied that the shedding does not affect farmers and crops, neighbors, state lines, Canada? It should be most concerning to the 5 people that are supposed to protect the enslaved consumers. It should be most concerning to the board that MDU would consider investing in these energies that are not self-sustainable. And the true reality of it all is the consumer that gets burdened in every way with this source. It's us. And you're going to have a lot of consuming when they do their digital mining. There's going to be plenty of business. Can any one of you, I would ask you, and I have typed out some of these because I realize you can't answer questions, so I've typed out a few, but trust me, I will send more because I was on a rush. We just need these questions answered by the commission. We need a very detailed investigation into this. It seems like we're jumping on board on something that has got a short life, but a long, hard, expensive impact on the consumers. The consumer gets burdened in every way with this source of energy now and by monopolies. Could we take this money and put this money into some long-lasting, proven energies? I would highly encourage MDU to look into that if you have not, and to fight for that, to fight for your consumers, not just your stockholders. Do you really believe that MDU will shut its doors and go broke? You guarantee me a customer base. I guarantee you, if I'm an ethical business, I will not go broke, and neither will you. So with that, I'm going to leave you, Mr. Chairman, a few of the questions that maybe we can make sure and I will get a better list to you also, and I will leave some of these. I made lots, but I will leave some with MDU also. And I thank you very much for your time once again and for your consideration.
Thank you. Are there any other commenters in the room? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Dennis Teskey, Prairie County resident, Terry, the town, farmer, rancher, commissioner in my county. Moved here 30 years ago from Seattle. Seattle, we own several convenience stores, and the chief reason we left was we had great business, tremendous profits. We did something you hardly see today is customer service. You go about in any store, any place, and it's lacking in our society. We forgot how to serve people. As a county commissioner, I drive to people's homes, drive down the roads. They got a complaint. I'm the guy they talk to. I'm the guy they need to talk to. And I need to find out a way forward with our constituents. They deserve that. They've hired me through a vote. When I was a kid, living in Roundup Coal Town, Montana Power was in business, and the nightly news would advertisement of Harry Kilowatt. telling you what he could do. The reason he was doing that was trying to advertise to get people to switch over to electricity instead of, we had a coal stove burner home. They were looking for guys like us. It was trying to grow a business and serve people. In Seattle, we serve people. Government was very intrusive of any business, of what we did. The thing that drove me the craziest is our stores were on main intersections, freeways. Rob and go. We'd have people with pistols and come and stick in our employees' noses and demand money. It's never the money. Doing that, you get somebody killed sometime. That's what I couldn't live with. So 30 years ago, I moved to the farm, never farmed before in my life. And I got a lesson. I'll just tell you what. The romance only lasted the first week. And after that, the romance was over. And how do you make it work? The people that were there before me couldn't make it work. I'd never done it. Into that thing, you're really doing a lot of soul searching. You realize how much God plays into your lives at that point. In that learning experience, everything I did had to be a profit center. Like when I was in Seattle, we had coffee, we had service bays. Everything had to be a profit center. And that's how I looked at it. How can I get the best use, the maximum use out of what I was doing? That was an important aspect of that business. And a lot of people look at it as a lifestyle, no, it's a business. In that process, you never do anything partway, halfway, because you're always working with a minimal margin in that business period. 30 years ago, I used to sell wheat for $4. Brand new tractor cost $100,000. Today, I sell wheat for $4. Brand new tractor costs you $600,000. How do we balance that? How do we do that as an agriculture person? And I live in an ag community. How do I best serve our citizens? We're scratching our head. As a county government, we're if we don't have new growth or those kind of things, or business, which we don't, we have agriculture. We're given half the cost of inflation from the state. So every year you go backwards. It doesn't matter because you're dealing with inflated prices, whether it's energy or anything we do. It just keeps costing our county more and more money. I see on here that 150 megawatt wind opportunity. NextEra has come to our town. They've been signing leases for 5 years, and they came to a commission meeting and give us its view. And in our county, we take people as they come. Handshake, how you doing? This is what we want. But as this has progressed over this last year, you have a learning experience in this, just like I did with customer service in Seattle, or taking care of cows or animals on our farm, or dealing with crops. You have a guy coming to town, a company out of Florida, and making a lot of promises, telling a lot of things that sound really good to our citizens and county commissioner. Remember, I told you we're a little short on cash around our place. But then I started realizing, and when you start looking into this, getting information from other states, Michigan was a good resource. They dealt with what we're dealing with 15 years ago, same company. In our town at Christmas time, we have a light parade, and it's a wonderful thing. The floats go down the street, and the fire department and the different businesses are throwing out candy to kids, and it's cute. Watch those kids run out in the street and grab that candy up, and it's the best thing. Wind has done the same thing. It's the same thing. They just throw those little candy chunks out, and you're expected to go pick them up, and life is just going to be good. Well, it might not be so good because the system's skewed, and the reason it's skewed is we've allowed it to be skewed. The reason everybody goes to green's a good word in our world today, because in our citizens, we've created fear. Fear of COVID, get a shot. Fear the temperatures are gonna go up. We gotta change the climate. Dear God in heaven, really? My weatherman doesn't get next week's weather right, and we're expected to believe that they're gonna change it in 100 years? And it's fear that drives that. And then people jump on this green wagon because, geez, it's the right thing to do. No, it isn't. Natural resources. A natural resource is naturally occurring: coal, oil, and gas. That drives the price down because of the efficiency of it. When you put wind up against coal, I saw at a MACO meeting, Montana County, Associated Counties in Helena, Northwest Energy came and showed us their sources of revenue and sources of energy. And the coal fired out of North Dakota, the gal come in and told us how bad they were. She showed us about coal, so inefficient. You look at that, geez, this gal made a lot of sense. It's just inefficient. But when the guy come behind her and showed us, well, during the day we take the wind and we take the solar because it's available, highest energy use. Coal-fired plants need to run about 85 or 90% to be most efficient. Well, they drop off. Highest profit end of the day. And then at night they come up, and it skews the system. We cheat. And that's what it is. It's cheating the system. If we just put our cards on the table, I'd be okay with that. But green is skewed. As you check into this, we're talking about Nextera. Nextera, through the Inflation Reduction Act, I think they get a 30% tax credit. They get that from Medicare. Me and my wife are on Medicare. Plan D, our Plan D went up 130% this year. So we can pay for Nextera. They have their tax credit. It's interesting. And then once these things go online at kilowatt, they get more subsidies. So we keep skewing it. And then they come to county commissioners. We're just hicks from the sticks that's just trying to get by. And they ask us for a tax abatement of 75%. You know, this will help us and we need it to make it operate. Really? What about Rick? He's got cows, pivots, crops. Who's going to give you an abatement for any of your investment? Has anybody ever given an abatement? No. Me neither. I don't want one. When I was a kid, I was taught you help people, you give them a helping hand, help them change their life if they want to, but if they don't, kind of on them at that point. But you don't stand in line like we have a society today. You owe me. I deserve this. I want this. And that's really where this kind of stuff's going to, and it's at. We have a man in the White House is cutting the snot out of stuff. And we're finding out how ridiculous this is of the money that's being spent in the craziest places. And we, the taxpayer, pay for it. What scares me the most about wind, and there's going to be 150 towers in our county if it all comes to fruition. What scares me the most, I've read the lease. The lease is 37 years with 2 10-year options at their option, not yours, the landowner, at the Nextera's option. 57 years. I won't be alive. Probably my kids won't be alive, but my grandchildren will. Did we get it right today? Did we really do it right? Did we look over this process to understand it? The hazardous material to be left behind that they don't take out. How's that going to look? How will we be remembered? Homesteaders aren't looked at very good in our county because when they left land, and this land went back to the county. County, what are you going to do? They get back to the government. 42% of our counties federally owned. So the tax dollars you receive are minimal because they're from the taxpayer, and you get a tilt payment in kind from the feds, and it's just a pittance is what it is. And in this 57-year lease, what happens is you can farm and ranch on this land as long as you don't interfere with the wind. Because if you do, then you got to quit doing what you're doing. Is our technology going to change in 5 years to where now we can't have cattle, animals on this land? And now the company has virtually bought this property through a lease for 57 years. Will this family have to quit farming and ranching? See, those are things I'm dealing with as a commissioner. Those are real items on the table for us. Can we afford to have a company from Florida take over more property and revert it back to something we don't even know? We need to have the conversation. There's never an easy answer in anything we do. But I love my country, and it's worth fighting for. It's worth asking questions. It's worth coming to meetings. It's in this process is, and you hear it. Half the county hates my guts. The other half kind of like me. And I signed on for that. But what I signed on to do is how do we find what's right? How do we do what's right by citizens, by companies like yours? How do we do what's right? My last point is, in this lease that I've read, there's 12 known problems that are identified. Noise, flicker, lights, wake, electricity, vibrations. And when you sign this lease, you have to give them that easement. It says it right there. My gravest concern is the man that lives across the fence. He didn't sign anything. I asked the wind company, what do you do with him? Oh, we make him an offer. What does that look like? Well, it's a paragraph. And he's going to do exactly what the landowner that signed the lease is going to do, except he's not going to get hurt. He's going to get a penance. I said, what if he doesn't accept it? Take it or leave it. Boy, tell you what, that's a piss poor attitude. Any business, take it or leave it. Can't you talk to me? Can't we reason things out? Can't we find a way? As a commissioner, I do care about the guy that rented his ground out to a wind company. I do. He has every right to do that. But what he doesn't have the right to do is infringe upon the guy on the other side of the fence. He just doesn't have that right. America was founded on the principle, looking at your Declaration of Independence. We were granted unalienable rights by our Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You know, what Jefferson, well, I read some documents, and you know what Jefferson said? We can't put property, and that's what it was supposed to be, life, liberty, and property, because this is the first time in the whole world going through what we did as a revolution that they were given private property. That's the first time that ever happened in the world. And it was important, but you couldn't say it because we had slavery. Property. So they changed to happiness, the pursuit of happiness. And what that is to my citizens here, or in this very town, is a pursuit of happiness. Owning your own piece of heaven. I'll never be, I love Elon Musk. I think he's doing a tremendous job. The guy's a bright guy. He made a lot of money. He didn't ask for a handout, so I know of. I'm happy right out there where I live. Dirt farmer. Come in oily, don't I? Come in nasty. Come in tired. But I love what I do because I'm on my little piece of heaven. You see, my other neighbors have that same right. They have their little piece of heaven. So how are we going to make that right with the guy next door? That's the problem that we're having a hard time with our wind project. They don't want to acknowledge that, and they're going to have to. We're told, well, you get sued. I've been beat up before. What's suing gonna do to me? You know, just one more hoop. As we progress through this, I'm a firm believer that there is not climate change. It's a skewed system. So we gain more ground, more control, get people afraid, and they'll do anything. I'm a farmer out here. I'll stand on my own. I bought a farm paid cash for because I didn't have access. Banks won't lend you land that you don't have access to, legal access. It wasn't a designated county road, but it was a county road. And after 5 short years of farming, I owed $1 million on that place. I was a pretty good farmer, wasn't I? Had to figure things out. Just had to figure them out. And I depend on the God of heaven to pull us through that. When I give up the reins and let God take over, as a nation, as a people, as we sit here going through this life of ours, we need each other. That's how we're built. And we need energy. What form of energy, how it goes. If we're going to do wind, God love it, let's do it for all the right reasons. Not because we're fearful or it's green and you get an extra pat on the back. Inflation's killing you and you killing all of us. And as we ask to pay the ratepayer to pay more money, I see what happens in a little town like mine. I see our citizens. It's hard, really tough on them. And then we ask or demand more and more. There's a tipping point. And I'm fearful of that because I can't fix the world, but I can try to fix little things going on in my county. And that's what they've asked me to do. Tonight, I'm standing up here just as a fellow, as a businessman, as a guy that represents my citizens. And they do deserve a fair shake. I just want to be fair with my citizens. And that's all I can ask for. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there any more commenters in the room? Any more commenters in the room? Are there any commenters online?
No, Commissioner.
Okay. Would MDU like to go over their resource adequacy plan?
All right, so I am Brian Giggy from Montana Dakota Utilities, so I'm just gonna kind of go over high level overview of what our resource plan is. So it is our 24 integrated resource plan, which includes our service territory of eastern Montana, western North Dakota, and northern South Dakota. So part of our plan, it is a least cost modeling approach that we do. It includes our forecasted customer energy and demand growth, which is just a little over 0.5% over 20 years. The plan also includes our current customer demand response and energy efficiency programs. We have a commercial demand response program of 23 megawatts and interruptible rate demand of about 13 megawatts. And the plan is to grow that to 60 megawatts. The plan also includes our existing generation fleet. It includes any new generation options that may be available to the model. It also has the MISO market in it. And we also do several different sensitivities on the base cases as well. Just to kind of go over what our existing generation fleet is. So we have just a little over 200 megawatts of coal-fired plants. These are joint ownership plants. One's in North Dakota, the other one's in South Dakota. We also have a little bit over 200 megawatts of renewable resources in Montana and North Dakota. Most of that is wind resources. We also have 5 natural gas combustion turbines. 2 of them are in Glendive. We have about 75 megawatts there. We have one in Miles City, just a little over 20 megawatts. And then we have 2 at our Heskett station, which is in Mandan, North Dakota. And that's about 180 megawatts of generation there. We also have some reciprocating engines up at Sydney at our Lewis and Clark station, about 18 megawatts. And we have 2 mobile generators that equals 4 megawatts. Some of this, as far as the model, some of the new generation alternatives that it does have to select. We had 3 simple cycle combustion turbine options, ranging anywhere from 45 up to 100 megawatt options. We also had combined cycle options. There was 3 options. They ranged anywhere from 200 to 400 megawatts. One of the options is to combine our Heskett units into a combined cycle as well. We had 3 reciprocating engines options to select from. Those range anywhere from 36 to 55 megawatts, and those have been running natural gas as well. There was a couple options for solar and storage. We had just the storage standalone option. We also had a couple sizes for wind projects as well. Also part of the model, we belong to MISO, so this allows us to purchase energy from the market as well. So just kind of going high level over some of the modeling results. So within MISO, our current resource adequacy requirements are we have to meet all 4 seasons, summer, fall, winter, and spring. For modeling purposes, we just looked at summer, winter seasons, as those are our highest peak seasons. So we looked at 4 different base cases. We have a current resource adequacy within MISO that we have right now for requirements. And then starting June 1st of 2028, there's a direct loss of load methodology that they're switching to. So we did base cases around that as well for summer and winter. So high level model results, just looking at the summer base case as our current resource adequacy requirements are. We didn't have any resources selected as a need that we needed out until after 2034. And then a simple cycle combustion turbine was picked in that time period. As far as the summer direct loss of load, which is the new methodology that MISO's moving to, it did not pick a resource. It picked small capacity resources to meet our need through just bilaterals or through their capacity market. So we didn't have a resource selected until 2033, which was just a 50 megawatt storage unit. Then looking at our current winter base case, we didn't have any resources selected out until after 2034 as well. So there was no need for any capacity or energy for us. And that was wind and storage were selected in those outer years. The last base case, just looking at our winter direct loss of load, it did select a simple cycle combustion turbine out in 2027 as a need for capacity energy. Just quickly kind of going over some of our action items that came out of our IRP. The first one is we'll continue to evaluate the accuracy of our demand and energy forecast to see if any improvements are needed in that. We do this annually anyway. We'll continue to look at our existing demand response energy efficiency programs, and we'll look to see what we can do to possibly grow those programs. We did have a potential study done in this as part of this IRP to see what other kind of programs we can offer customers. The next one, which kind of already talked about, was Heskett 4. This went operational COD on July 8th of 2024. We'll plan to issue a request for proposal for supply side resources as part of our next IRP, which will be in 2027. We'll also continue to look at any of local needs that we may have, either doing some kind of community solar type battery, small battery type projects. Continue to monitor the MISO capacity market, looking at any bilateral potential agreements that we can do for capacity or energy needs. We also have the EPA Regional Haze as part of our Coyote Station in North Dakota. So we're continuing to monitor that as far as what rules and stuff will have to go on, potential implementation of any environmental additions to that plant. We also continue to monitor for Heskett 3 and 4. They're natural gas units now. We continue to monitor to see if they need to be dual fuel with fuel oil as well as natural gas moving forward. And lastly, we also have MISO. They have a long-range transmission plan as part of their look at some of the transmission as part of MISO. So we continue to monitor that. We do have one transmission project in North Dakota that connects to our system. So we're working on building that from Jamestown to Ellendale. We continue to evaluate that 150 megawatt wind opportunity that we have in front of us. Then we also continue to monitor. So we belong to MISO now. There's also Southwest Power Pool is in our area as well. So we continue to monitor if we stay in MISO or go to SPP or kind of split our system. And the last thing, I guess, we do have an IRP public advisory group, and we plan to keep to that plan going forward. So, and that ends my comments. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Would MDU like to do any further? Okay.
Can I make a comment then, if they're not, are they not done?
Yes, sir. I was gonna leave it back open for public comment, so.
I apologize for making you sit through this because I know I'm the most boring guy in the county, okay? I'm just apologizing. A point I wanted to make is in your document, it talks about 150 megawatt of wind opportunity. And we can look at that several different ways. The one I look at is called reality. And the points I make is I have a son that lived in Texas in 22. Texas went through a freeze, a cold. Power went off, shut the wind turbines off. So he ended up for 4 days spending an extra $1,000 because at Macomb County Electric, just north of us, those folks sat in the dark for 2 hours a day while they shipped that power down to Texas. And on this wind, next aerosol was at 18 below, they shut them off. But they had them all shut off here the other day when it was 12 above, north of Miles City. Somebody's skewing the system here. I live up north and I've seen 45, 50 below it at my home. I don't want to be sitting there without power because I'll just be real upset over that because that's not going to work for you at my house. As a business guy, Rick, MDU, return on investment, that's what it is. It's bottom line. That's what we get hired to do those things. As a county commissioner, I swear an oath to protect people's health, safety, and welfare. And that is dire to me. Can't wipe their noses and I can't wipe their butts and I don't want to, and that's not what that oath's about. But what it is about is a guy that's not signed on to this thing. How does it affect him? What's it doing to him? Certain people hear that noise. Talking to our Board of Health, Chip Mintz is our leader on Board of Health in our county. And he said you have 2 hearings, one that you hear and one that's there that you don't hear. And I didn't realize that. And he said sometimes in his findings that's what's happened. Those are the things we need to protect. We need to have all the answers to that. We can't just put things up and say, geez, good luck, or should have took the deal. That doesn't work. This 57-year deal, It's just showing a scenario. What happens if the guy has to stop his cows? They don't like being around towers, lose weight. I heard one time that there was like a 40% rate where cows didn't get impregnated and lost 40% of its crop. You move that guy off the land, or he stays on the land, he's getting his check from wind. What happens when the wind stops? What happens when they freeze up and that check goes to nothing, can't pay his taxes? Those are things, reality out there. And I want to look at all that stuff before we make a lot of crazy decisions and get people in trouble. I'm not for this stuff. I'm not against this stuff. I just want more answers to this stuff, that when we go down this road, we're going down a pretty good road. When I was a high school kid, I know you hate stories. When I was a high school kid, I was a freshman, and senior combined picked us up, took us out in the country, and it was kind of cool. And when they left us, we just had our underwear and our necktie on. And that is a bad place to be in the dark, 10 miles out of town. And as I was walking to town, I got thinking, how did I get in this position? I never want to do that again. And it was because smart mouth freshmen to seniors got us in that position. I did it. I just want us to do what's right by people. That's what I'm hoping we can accomplish here. And I know we want to expand our business and do things the proven method. And as a farmer, I always go with what works. I can't spend any things that don't work and experiment and try. What works the best is natural resource, coal, oil, and gas. I would like to see us get away from the nonsense you're told from Washington. Because if you look back there, there's a lot of folks, it's just nuts. And I'd like us to live our own reality, the true reality. Because remember, I live in a place where it gets 45, 50 below. I don't want a wind turbine to stop and all of a sudden my heat goes off. Those are the things we're going to be careful for. Thank you.
Are there any public commenters in the room? Are there any commenters online?
No, sir.
Seeing no further public commenters, we are ready to adjourn this listening session. The commission will continue to accept public comment in writing and by phone. To provide public comment, please call the commission at 1-800-646-6150 or email the commission at pschelp@mt.gov. The commission encourages all commenters to review MDU's plan, which, as I mentioned earlier, can be found on the commission's website in its ready system under docket number 202409-099. Please remember that the deadline for public comment is March 14th, 2025. Thank you for your public comments, and the time is now 6:17 p.m. and this listening session is now adjourned. Thank you, and thank you for coming.